I had this small Nokia phone, and that was it. I started to save my allowance for about 7 to 8 months or so, and I was able to buy a camera.
That was your first camera.
Yes, that's my first camera.
Hi there. Welcome to the Just Start podcast, where we bring you conversations and insights and stories around business from the city of Jos. I am your host. My name is Timothy Kunat, and it's exciting, really exciting to have you watching this podcast today. There are three things, or better still, four things I want you to do. Right, before we go into the meat of today's session, before we get into it, there are four things I want you to do. So right now, as you're watching me, I want you to hit the subscribe button because every subscriber counts and we want these conversations to go as far as possible. So hit the subscribe button, click on the like this video, right? Share it to your friends, your siblings, your family members, your enemies, everybody, right? And also leave a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what city or what part of, if you're watching from Jos or outside Jos, wherever part of the world you're in, let me know where you're watching from. And if there's anything at any point that you found that was profound in the conversation, leave a comment there and let's see what is really getting to you. Let's see what stood out for you in the conversations. All right. So this session, we have an amazing guest. He's someone who I consider one of the amazing photographers in the city of Jos. Young guy doing so many awesome stuff. I'll let him introduce himself a little bit, but today I have with me Fasasi Abbas, the founder of Fasasi Studios, and it's really nice having you here today, Fasasi. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, Tim. Thank you so much for bringing me on this. And first thing, I must recommend the great work you're doing in this city.
Thank you.
Especially with putting out Plateau State on the map and just showing the great things that we have here in this city.
Awesome.
And also the things you do for businesses also with Itzenia. I must say kudos to that.
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much. Yeah. So let's hear a little bit about Fasasi Studios.
Okay.
Just let everybody here who's watching,
All right,
let's hear about Fasasi Studios.
My name is Fasasi Abbas. I'm the lead photographer at Fasasi Studios. I'm also the creative director at Fast Canvas Backdrop. Which is a business that creates hand-painted premium canvas backdrop for photographers and quite a number of creative in the industry who have need for use of it. I'm also the founder of the Just Photographers Hub, which is a creative community that help photographers within the plateau just to thrive and be able to cater for needs here and there, trainings and all of that people need to grow. So
awesome. Thank you so much, Fas. So, recently you had a campaign, I think it's still going on, called In Your Essence.
Yes.
Right. And I like what that sounds like. Right. So what is In Your Essence about? What is it, as a project that Fasasi Studios is running?
So I will start this way by saying we do a campaign called Fast Portrait, and the caption of it is called In Your Essence. It's basically a branding profile headshots campaign where we capture people who are business owners and people who are doing stuffs in their spaces and just put them out, publish their brand profile. So I would say, let's say after the pandemic, a lot of businesses moved online. So more like there's a lot of businesses who their business space is now online, no longer physical space. There is physical space, but largely. And I realized that a lot of people had need for headshots, had need for good profile pictures because their social media platforms became their signposts. Their display picture became their signpost.
Yeah.
So when you see it, it draws you. You want to see more about them. You get to know them and interact with them from their display pictures. Yeah. And because a lot of businesses needed that need that headshot, we decide to create that and also put people and give them an opportunity also to showcase themselves.
Awesome. One of the things that I found with just watching the videos that come, because of course, when you guys do the portraits for these professionals, you kind of do some videos too.
The behind the
and
scenes.
and I see that it kind of is like a booster. It gives these people like a boost, seeing the pictures, seeing themselves looking so good.
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'll say it for my own self. I feel more comfortable when I'm behind the camera than when I'm in front of the camera, and I can say that resonates with quite a lot of people, right? But then, when you get to the great opportunity that I think I have, which I'm always grateful for, is the opportunity to document people, especially shoot their portrait session. It's a vulnerable time. It's people being vulnerable before you, right? You can see the high and mighty when they stand before a camera. They kind of, just kind of come down, And a lot of times, there are a lot of people who are looking forward to seeing their picture, and the picture tells them of who they think they are, or who they are. So there are a lot of people who struggle with identity.
Wow.
So most times when you photograph them, and you photograph them in their essence, they always, they have a strong liking for that, And certain times people have, like I said, identity crisis. And most times when you take a very good portrait of them that represents them for who they are, that captures their authentic self, it's something they always want to run with and keep. And that's one of the things we seek to do, when we do with this campaign.
Awesome. Now let's go back a little bit, because I'm sure that you didn't study photography in the university. So how did this journey into photography start?
So I would say that photography for me is like a blessing. It's like a gift that God gave to me, right? I've always been a passionate person growing up. There was a season in my life where I played basketball, I did rap music and all of that. And then,
You did rap music?
Yeah, I did.
Are you going to spit some bars for us today?
My talent don't finish. No, but for real, we did quite a bit of that. And then, but photography was the thing I was really confident about. When I had it, I knew that I had something. I could see something. I could see a future in it. And then I came to serve in Plateau State, and this was in 2017. And I got posted to, one of the businesses that is no longer running in the city. So I had to look for a place of primary assignment. And after going around and couldn't get any, I just started to look for the best photography studios. And a few people referred me. In short, the person who trained us in camp, his name is Pascal, he referred me to Sheun Anue Studios and Ditomatic. And then I went there and I was accepted, and I served 1 year in the photography studio. And
At Sheun Anue's place?
Yes, at Sheun Anue Studios. And that's how my photography journey started.
Wow.
And 2-3 months, it just clicked, and that's it.
Wow. So you were still serving as a core member when you were doing this. Now, how did you juggle the passion for photography and being a copper and all of that? So what were some of the things that you were doing in that season?
Okay, just before I came to serve, I started to learn photography in Kaduna, right, with Photo House Studios. And then, but in a short time, I was posted to come and serve. And while serving, I was also opportune to be able to serve in church, in the church media unit. So I was doing photography, and then now I'm serving in a photography studio and then doing my NYSC. And looking back, it was such an interesting time because I was busy all week at the studio, and on Sunday, I'm busy in church serving in media.
All through the service.
And then, funny enough, I was the CDS president.
For your CDS group?
Yes, for my CDS group.
Okay.
And so it's only Tuesdays I had for CDS. And after that Tuesday, I'm now a bit free on Tuesday in the evenings. But then while I was doing that, I needed my own equipment to be able to do my own work, because I was serving at the studio and I had to do every work for the studio, So that journey began to move, and that's how I began to save and try to buy equipment for myself.
I remember one time you were telling me about how while you were CDS president, you did not have a phone.
Yeah, I didn't have a phone. So the thing is, during my service year, I personally didn't want to invest in a multimedia phone because I knew I wanted to get a camera. That's what I wanted to do. So I had this small Nokia phone, and that was it. And I started to save my allowance. So I saved my allowance, and for about 7 to 8 months or so, and I was able to buy a camera.
That was your first camera?
Yes, that's my first camera.
Do you still have it?
I still have it.
Wow.
I still have that camera. It's a Canon 50D, and that camera is an amazing camera. I created amazing work with it. So, and it was funny because as CDS president, I needed to communicate to a lot of people in the group, but I didn't have a multimedia phone. I was not on the WhatsApp group
for your own
for my
CDS
own CDS. So all the time I had to speak to the PRO, and he would now speak to the group. He was always angry with me, Melvin. I'm sorry, but I needed to do that.
I mean, it has paid off.
It has paid off because that camera has helped me grow, and that was it.
Awesome. Building a photography business in Jos, right? I know you talked about spending time at Shewanue's place,
yes,
and also with Ditomatic.
Yeah.
What was the journey like transiting from those two amazing photography houses in Jos to starting your own?
Yeah.
What was it like?
So I served Shewan for 1 year, and I moved on to work with Dito also for another year. In short, I had decided I was going to Lagos to pursue my photography journey. And then I met a few photographers, and most of them are really doing very well now. One is Liberty Studio, who is currently in Toronto. And I met them in Lagos, and they offered to accept me. But then I didn't have anywhere to stay in Lagos. And I was not ready to go and sleep under Oshodi Bridge. So I just decided, no, I'll just come back to Jos and work with Ditomatic. So I worked with Ditomatic, and I learned quite a lot from him. Also, then I volunteered with someone who was running for governor in Plateau State then for 1 year, Alex Ladan, and I volunteered and I shot. So that opportunity helped me travel to the 17 local governments in Plateau State.
Wow.
And I learned more about documentary. It opened me up to quite a number of people. And after that, I realized, okay, it seems it's time for me to get my own space. And then that's how I found this current space where I am. And I started, and I received a lot of support from Shewanwe, who was the first person I served, even support from Dito, and that's how I just kickstart.
Let me take you on that, because it seems like you've highlighted something very important, which is the place of mentorship,
yes,
and training,
yes,
in building a business, right? Talk about that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the key things that you need if you must go far as an entrepreneur, a business, or a creative. You need mentors, because these are people who have walked this road. These are people who have, they know these ropes, and they can easily help you. I remember when I started, Sheun Anwe had to tell me the kind of paper backdrops to invest in. I even remember he drove me all the way to town, and we bought some of those things. Some stands he gave me. I remember my first 50mm lens was given to me by Ditomatic, and it was a 1.2 lens, a 1.4 lens. So sometimes there are a lot of mistakes you would make that there's no need. So for instance, you take your money and you go and invest in a fisheye lens when you're a portrait photographer, because you just maybe see it's a good deal. But if you have a mentor, he will tell you, no, you don't need that. So the place of mentorship is something that we can't overemphasize. And a lot of people do struggle with it.
Yeah.
In recent time, there is a lot of, I am self-learned, self-trained.
Self-taught.
Yeah, self-taught.
Self-made.
Self-taught. That is, yeah, you can learn some things on your own, but the place of mentorship is not something you can learn on YouTube. You can't get it on YouTube. You need to sit with people, because mentorship is a mentality that you get to learn from them. It's a way of thinking. It's also a way of seeing things. And some of these people have walked this journey, so you sit under them, you would learn.
There's something I always tell people, that To become a doctor, or to become a pilot,
Yeah.
you go through school. To become whatever profession you want to become, you go through school. But then it's interesting how when people want to start a business, they don't think that any form of training is important. They just feel like, okay, I sabi snap now, or I sabi bake now. I know the skill. But from what you're saying now, it just highlights what I've always talked about, that beyond the skill, there is there is a mindset
Mindset.
that helps you thrive in business,
True.
right? And without that mindset, no matter how skilled you are,
Yeah.
you may not be able to. The fact that I have the skill in this thing does not mean I can run the business of this thing,
So true.
right? So it's actually a really important thing that I wish a lot of people paid more attention to, especially young people, because many of us young people, we want to hit the ball rolling and just keep driving, and we're not asking the right questions. We're not a lot of us are not meeting the people, especially because sometimes you also feel like these people, their time has passed.
And funny enough, one major thing I usually see is that a lot of the young generation, they have a lot of insight.
Insight,
They
yeah.
have insights. You won't deny that. The Gen Zs, I don't want to use those millennial Gen Z terms and all of that, but a lot of young people have a lot of insight, but they lack foresight. That's just the truth. They lack foresight. And because a lot of time there is no knowledge of hindsight, right? So in my industry, photography industry, when you look at some of the top people, these are people who have been there for years. And there are a lot of bright minds now, but you still can't really beat what some of those people who have been there for years have done. Because they have a lot of foresight, right? So now there are a lot of amazing phones. I know you use the 16 Pro.
Why did you mention that one now?
You know, those are amazing equipments, right? But then there are a lot of phones coming out
Yeah.
now, and you can create amazing pictures, right? And a lot of people get scared because, if these phones can do these things, why would they book me as a photographer? But that's because all you know in your photography journey is just how to produce those images. The value of what those images can do in long term. How many people really focus on prints? How many people do exhibitions of their work? How many people are creating images that those images have value that would last 50 years after? A lot of people don't think of those things now. So that's why some of these people who have walked these roads, you need to sit with them and get a lot of knowledge so you can have foresight even in your business. So I think if you are a business person or you're someone looking forward to going into a particular business field, you need to find people who have done that and sit under them. Even if it's for a year, if it's for 6 months, you need that mentorship, and it's key.
Awesome. Building this business now, Fasasi Studios has been running for 7 years.
Yes, about
thereabouts.
7 years.
I'm sure it has not been a smooth journey.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? The Fasasi that is here now is not the same person that was there in like 2018, 2019.
Yeah, sure.
Right. What are some of the major challenges that you have faced as a young person building in this industry over these past few years?
Yeah, so this is Nigeria. Beautiful country.
Look how we're
We
feeling
love
now.
it. Yes. But then our field is quite capital intensive. And that is a major challenge because having to buy a camera, having to buy equipment, the amount of years that you need to also invest in being able to grow in your art can be capital intensive. Yeah. So that's a major challenge. But one thing I can also say that has helped us is that I built a team. Fasasi Studios is not just me. Yes, I'm Fasasi. I'm the lead photographer there. But then I have a team. And I have a team that have been with me for 5 to 6 years. I have someone in my team, my manager, she's 6 years with me. So we've grown together. We've grown the business. And that has really helped us structure the business and has helped us, to be able to manage everyday runnings of the business. Right. Just while we're here filming this morning, I received a call. Someone was inquiring for a studio session, and I had to just connect him to the manager, and then the person she has attended to him. So I'm saying because of that, it's easy for us to grow, it's easy for us to scale, But it was a major challenge at the beginning, right? Having to do it alone, and I think that's one of the challenge, and also access to trainings. I've had to travel a lot to Lagos, and I have to travel a lot to Abuja for trainings, which is a very key part, because having professionals train you, and also the connections you have with people who are in that field, has actually helped me grow. So these are some of the challenges I think that we faced.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed that a lot of people, business leaders, are afraid of is this team.
Yeah.
Because some people have the mindset of, a lot of people have the mindset of, hey, these people can just leave me anytime. Should I invest in them so much? What if I spend all this time investing in them and then they just up and go? There's also the perspective of, I don't want to teach them some of my trade secrets so that they will not go and start their own and then take my customers away from me and all of that. How have you managed building a team with the realities of some of these kinds of things happening?
But the goal is for them to actually live and grow. They are supposed to live and grow.
Wow.
That's one. Let me just put that out there. It's a mindset that people just need to understand how to work around it, right? So people would always come and invest themselves in where they see a future and where they can grow, and they all have intentions to grow, and it's key that they also grow. The scripture says, who would commit to another if you've not been faithful in another man's own?
Yeah.
Right? So it's that scripture tells you that faithfulness is what someone needs when when he works with you.
Yeah.
Right? And if he's faithful, his own would definitely be committed to him. So there is that place of his own being committed to him.
And it has to happen.
And it has to happen. And it's good that it happens. So in building a team, right, everyone in my team have to have a personal goal that they are pursuing, apart from the general goal for Fasasi Studios, right? So I have someone in my team who largely focuses on fashion photography. I have someone in my team who shoots portrait, but more from a documentary perspective, which is slightly different from what I do, right? And they have their own personal brand now. They've been with me for 5 years, so they are pursuing their own personal brand, right? So a lot of times people want people to just work for them and have no intentions of them expressing their own part of their own creativity. Now, it would bring a lot of trouble. Rather, have people grow, have them train and retrain, so that when they break out to go for theirs, they have people to replace them. And you see them as extensions of you. In all sincerity, this is what God told me for my business.
Yeah.
He gave me a few examples, and I'll share them. Abraham and Lot, they are cousins.
Yeah.
And the issues started when their headsmen started to have issues over land, grazing land, And then, how did they resolve it? Lot chose to the greener side, but Abraham, the Lord told him, as far as his eyes can see. So you see, growth in itself, if not handled properly, will bring problems for you.
Yeah.
So instead of to stay in one place and have too much issue, why not break out? So I've always seen it that I'm looking forward to the day where if Fasasi Studio grows to Lagos, to Abuja, to Toronto, to Texas, so I want to have somebody from my team who would say, okay, I'm handling the branch at Texas, and have his children say, we are going to Daddy's Studios, because there's a sense of ownership in it, and not necessarily feel like they're working for you and they're building your business while you are just there, chilling. They need to find interest. And God told me this, to be careful with the people who choose to stay with me as they build with me, because there's a high tendency for you to treat them like you know you already have them. And then he reminded me to know that their dreams are attached to my dreams. So if I fail, they fail. The families that would survive from the earnings that they make in my business will also be deprived when I fail. So they won't let me fail, but it's the onus is on me not to fail.
Not to fail.
And then the other people who will come and pass through me, I also have to be conscious to know that I see them as extensions. Because if today we have a job in Port Harcourt, we have a job in Enugu, we have a job in Abuja, I alone cannot shoot that. If one of the people who passed through me is currently in Lagos, that person can shoot that job and I get a percentage of it. So with that mindset, I feel it's just easy. So I'm really never troubled about the fact that somebody is going to leave me. They will leave. And if they don't leave, there are certain times I have to tell, it's time for you to start up yours. So there's always the train and retrain thing that keeps people going. So for me, that's the mindset.
Yeah. Talking about training, you mentioned how you traveled a lot to Lagos and Abuja primarily for trainings. And I remember one time, because we've been friends for a while, and I know a bit of the journey. And I remember there was one time for, I think about 2 months, you were going to Abuja every single week.
It was 12 weeks.
12 weeks. You were going to Abuja every single weekend. You would go to Abuja on Thursday, come back on Sunday, work Monday to Wednesday, and leave again on Thursday because of a training.
That's I attended the Big H Follow the Light training, and it ran. It's usually for around 8 weeks, but I think during that time ours ran up to 12 weeks. So he was consistently going to, and that was one of the greatest thing that happened to me because my entire mindset about photography changed. The training is a very solid training, very, very solid training. And Big H is an amazing guy. So, and that the people I got to meet in that training, I connected with a lot of people who are still friends today, and that ecosystem has just been something I benefited a lot from. So the traveling, the sacrifice of traveling for now is really worth it. It was a lot then.
But it was a lot. It was a
lot then, And because funny enough, there was a particular day I had a training on Friday. It was a training. One of the top photographers, Bedge, was teaching. Right. So I couldn't miss that. Right. So I had to stay for that class. And the next day I had a wedding. I left Abuja around like 4
a.m.
I'm telling you, I got to Jos by after 9. So I had a photographer here who is a friend who I said, okay, just stand in for me, help me start to do the prep, and I'll come in. And immediately I came in, I continued that wedding. But then it's a sacrifice that is really, really worth it because I've really grown.
These are sacrifices that you've made, and of course it shows. It shows now that the journey is not 1 + 1 = 21. No. Right? It's not that easy. There are sacrifices to be made along the journey. But
if I must add, right, it's one thing I've realized that because there's a lot of knowledge online, there's a lot of things you can learn in YouTube. There are so many people who are not spending so much time on the fundamentals, right? They just, check online, how can I do this? How can I edit this picture? If they make a mistake in shooting, they just think, okay, how can I correct this in post and all of that? And there's not so many people who are sitting down with the fundamentals. And I say this to my guys, I say, every professional knows 80% basics. The remaining 20% is mindset and application. But you see the basics is 80%. You need to know it. Recently I was watching a documentary about Kobe Bryant, and I realized that there was one particular game they went to play at a camp, and for that entire series of their time in the camp, he was only playing basketball with his left hand. He dribbled with his left hand and he shoots with his left hand, and he's a right-hand player. And the entire people in that camp did not know that he was playing in that entire camp with his left hand and shooting with only his left hand, just because he was practicing how to use his left hand.
Wow.
Right? It was towards when the other team were not doing well that their coach was, speaking to them about the fact that see what Kobe is doing and how an entire camp of playing basketball, he was using it as practice. And you be surprised that why he's that good. There's a lot of spending time learning the fundamentals that we need, but also because it's easy to blow up, it's easy to trend, it's easy to go viral, and once you go viral, you have 3,000 people saying to you, wow, you're the best photographer, and you forget to spend so much time in learning the basics.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Still on the heels of training,
Yeah.
one of the things that I've also noticed is the fact that you have been able to bring some of those trainings to Jos.
Yes.
Talk about that and talk about that, but I also want you to talk about the Light Bearers Initiative, because that is something that I find very interesting.
Well, in short, I'll start with the Light Bearers training. We started in 2020, and it was more like there are a lot of so. I studied information and media technology from Federal University of Technology in Mina. I never knew I would do photography. However, we did photojournalism for one semester and all of that. But then I totally changed and moved into a new field, which is what I'm currently doing now as a photographer. And I realized that there are a lot of young people who, if they have strong direction for where they want to go to, while in the university, there's a lot they can do. And they can also begin to venture into fields of their desire. So I decided to start bringing in young people, ages from 16 to 25, young adults, teenagers, and begin to train them on photography, especially towards the long break that secondary schools have in August. So we call this thing the Light Bearers Training, right? Which is like a mini boot camp for young people to learn photography. And it's amazing because I've seen quite a number of them grow from there. It's like a 1 week, 2 week thing that we sit with them and teach them. But then while we do that, a lot of photographers in the city would also look forward to say, hi, we can't be in this age bracket. We've passed this age bracket. Can we have trainings? So because I've also traveled to Lagos, I've traveled to Abuja, and I've connected with a few photographers just to speak to them and ask them, can you come in? And we had amazing people coming. So we did the rule workshop last year, and we had Nico, we had Shegun Kabiri, we have Madugu from Kano, and it was amazing. And we've been able to train people. And now some of those people have contact to these people, and they can directly ask them questions. And photography is growing in the city.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So you've been able to contribute your own little quota to the larger industry growth that is happening in the city, and that's amazing to see. One of the things that anybody who pays attention will notice is that Fasasi Studios and Fasasi as a brand seems to be is now becoming like the go-to place for anybody who is anybody to get their pictures taken. Birthday pictures, birthday photo shoots, personal portraits, all of those. I mean, I've seen quite some solid people in this city, at your place. And how have you been able to get into this kind of niche, this kind of market, where it is the people who are worth it, if I can use that word? Amazing, solid men, solid women across business leaders, political leaders coming to Fasasi Studios to have their pictures taken. How did you enter that level of the business?
Yeah, well, firstly, I'm grateful to God for that. And I'm grateful to God that we're growing into more things.
Yeah.
But then I think the first thing is being able to do the work and do the work well, right? With as little as you have, know what you're doing, know your onions, right? And that's what we're doing. We're every day consistently trying to do better in our work. And then also character formation also. We're trying to grow in character because there are some of those people that are prestigious people and you need to treat them well. You see this phrase that say customer is king, right? Yes, customers should be treated as kings because a lot of them are kingly. And yes, there are some who might not be kingly, right? You try to treat them as, so that's one thing that we hold high, how we treat people, right? And we want you to be comfortable when you come into our space because a lot of people, like I mentioned earlier, are not very camera friendly. When they stand before a camera, there's a lot of tension.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to know their story. You want to be able to interact with them. You want to know the right questions to ask just
ask.
before you shoot them.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I know we do. And then the testimonies that comes after it, even most times precedes the picture. Yeah, the picture that comes out are good, but how they feel a lot of times is what has made people come. And then when they feel good, it's easy for them to tell somebody else to come feel good.
Yeah.
And when the other person comes, the testimony is not really different from what the first person says. So I think in simple terms, that has been it. There's a lady I shot once. She was 40. I think this was like 4 years back when she turned 40. And then I asked her how did she feel being 40. And one thing I know is that when you shoot ladies when they turn 40, it's a major marker for them because they're looking at their life. Probably they are almost done with the childbearing stage and they're looking at, have I done well? There's a lot of questions they get to ask themselves, right? So, and that lady, I realized that life has beaten her, a lot.
Yeah.
And she has done a whole lot. I think she was struggling with fibroid or something like that. She has one child and all. And when I asked her that question, she was more like, she has to just keep pushing. And then I remembered setting up that particular shoot. There was a mirror in the studio, so I focused the light on her, so the light was not reflecting in the mirror. And I asked her, can you look at the mirror? And can you tell that lady sitting next to that you can see in the mirror, tell her she's beautiful. I want you to tell her that the next 40 years coming after this one is going to be better. That all your labors that you've done is going to pay off. And you could see tears rolling down her eyes. She did that shoot and she felt for the first time she's saying something to appreciate herself. Because a lot of time people work hard.
People work hard, yes.
People are struggling with so much, and some of these struggles dent how they feel about themselves.
Very true.
If they sit before you, it's like therapy. Let their picture remind them, of how they are internally. You need to
who they
evoke
really
a
are.
visceral response from them.
Yeah.
Let them smile genuinely so that smile reminds them that, yes, you're beautiful. They know they are beautiful. But when life hits you, certain times, your perspective just changed.
Yeah.
So that's some of the things that we do, and I believe that's what makes these people gravitate towards us.
Fantastic. Wow. I mean, this last story was quite something. Yeah. Wow. If you could do it all again, if you could start all over again, right? What will you do? What will you do differently, and what would you continue doing? What will you do the same way you've done?
Okay, one of the things that I would say I would do again is build a team. Yes, that's one thing that I would do again. And if for something I would have done differently is start building the team earlier. So I'll start building the team earlier because and I'll build the team not just with young people.
Yeah.
Because I built the team with a lot of teenagers. Who now had to go to school. And even as at now, I'm glad that I have 2 people in my team who they started before going to school.
And then they finished university.
They've served, and they're back in the studio now.
Wow.
So they've worked full time in the studio.
Wow.
But we have quite a number of them who are still in school. So most times when they are in school, the studio is a bit short-staffed, or we have to work more, those who are around. And then when they come back, the studio is fully packed, and all of that. But it's an amazing love culture. The studio is the place for me. That's where I thrive more because there's a lot of love there and there's a lot of, friendship that goes on there. And also it's our accounts. Being able to take proper records of our accounts wasn't something we did
from the very beginning.
But thank God for House Top Agency, and which is currently in Zinya and all, who helped us, And that's one thing a lot of photographers will not do, pay to get structure, pay to have people help them with their accounts and all of that. And I realized that being able to do that, being able to know where your money is going to, being able to know being able to be accountable to your business is one key thing that has helped us. And that's one thing I think I would have done earlier.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. And if you could talk to one young aspiring photographer or someone who's, young person who's just getting into photography, what are like the top three things you would tell them?
Yeah, what first thing I would say, you need to put in a lot of work, especially in learning, right? Learning, find a mentor and sit under that person. Your mentor might not have everything. Your mentor might not even have a large covering beyond just your city. But as long as the person has been there and has gone ahead of you, there's a lot that the person can teach you, right? And sometimes it might not be palatable being under them, But then to learn those ropes, you need to sit under. You need to have somebody be able to instruct you. You need to be able to take instruction. You need to be able to learn how does this person communicate with customers? How do you what's the entire workflow, right? Those are one key. That's one key thing I'll say. Then being able to learn. Secondly, I'll say is character building, right? You have to be able to build good character because the truth is this work is amazing. You get the opportunity to stand before big people. And certain times, if your character formulation is not solid, you will mess yourself up. You can imagine if you are asked to shoot the president. That's when you will know if you really know what you are doing. I'll tell you this. There's a conversation I had. I'll say more like I was having that conversation with the Lord one day, just taking a walk back from the studio. This was in 2020 or so. And then I had this desire for, because I see the former President Buhari, his chief photographer, Bayo, and in his first year of being the photographer of the president, he had traveled to like 20 countries, right? And then I desired that. I look up to him. I look up to T.Y. Bello because, they've shot very prominent people.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, God, you can give me this thing now. But then it was like a conversation with the Lord and he was like, okay, how much do you know your camera?
Wow.
How much do you know your camera that the day you stand before the president to document him, maybe they're giving him an award and all of that, and you're the only photographer in the room and you miss the shots on the basis of you don't know your camera. How well do you know your camera? How well do you know the basics of your tool? And also, in that same conversation, there's a conversation of how much of your character is in place, right? That you stand before prestigious people and you're not missing your terms. You can comfortably ask questions because these people, prestigious people, can be intimidating. And if you don't know what you're doing, it will show. You begin to fidget.
Yeah.
How much have you cut down covetousness? There are people who can buy you the entire company that produced the camera. I'm not talking of the camera.
The company
The
that produced
company
the
that produced the camera. All they need you to do is probably take one picture that would cause a scandal or something. How much have you cut down covetousness? So there are a lot of these things to consider. We have the opportunity a lot of time to go into people's home and do photo shoots for them. How do you handle that? Do you go into somebody's home and the first thing, all in the name of wanting to do content, you've recorded every door that leads to the person's private room and all of that, all in the basis of let me have content of the shoot. Can you put some sense of sanity to the fact that somebody has asked you to come into
their home?
You understand? To document them. So there's a lot of character formation that is necessary. And sometimes you grow and you learn these things. That's why, back to the first point, you need a mentor.
Yeah.
So these are some things that I would say.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I'll say you should think beyond where you are.
Yeah.
So certain times, follow photographers who are not even within the vicinity of where you live or your state, your country, and all of that, and just interact with people so that your mind opens. So
Yeah.
that's what I was.
So finally, I want you to tell me what is the most, or what is, or what was the most challenging shoot that you've ever had? The most challenging, and how did you handle it? That's on one side, and the next side would be, what is the one shoot that you've had that made you stop and say, yes, I'm actually doing the thing I was made to do?
It's a hard one. Okay, so one of the challenging thing I would say is, okay, there's a scenario that once happened, right? I traveled a few
I
years
mean, you
back.
don't have to give like a lot of
Yeah,
specific details if
yeah.
yeah.
A few years back, I traveled to somewhere, Akoko Edo or so, for someone's wedding. And then there was a lot of drama that happened during that road trip. And then while I was shooting the wedding, then I like I said, I started with my first camera. So it uses CF cards, and they were not big cards. Those cards were like 4 gig cards, and I had like 3 of them or so. And while I was shooting, I had shot on the first card, which is where in the morning I had all their portraits. And during the reception, I was shooting. I had this photographer in that village who came, and he was more like an elderly guy, but then he was trying to tell me everything to do. So I was also pleading with him that, sir, please, can you just let me do my work? You understand? Because he was distracting me a whole lot. And in that time, my card got filled up. So I removed the card I shot and I put in the first card I used
That
to
was already
shoot their
full.
portrait that was already full, and I formatted the card.
Oh my goodness.
And immediately I did that, I realized what happened. And sweat just broke out
Oh
from
my
every pore
oh
on my
my
face.
goodness.
And this man was still there, telling me, do it like this. God. But thank God for knowledge. I knew that if such a thing happened, you don't shoot on that card. So I just removed that card and I kept it somewhere else. And luckily for me, I was able to come back to Jos, and there's this amazing guy who had all of the softwares, and I paid him, and he was able to recover at least large chunk, not everything, right?
Wow.
But he was able to retrieve and restore large chunk. And that scenario taught me a whole lot. There's certain times when you go for work, you have to be prepared beyond the preparation you think is needed for the job. Because
Prepared
documenting,
beyond the preparation
yes,
needed for the job.
documenting somebody's wedding is a lifetime thing, right? Their grandchildren, great grandchildren, we get to see those pictures, right? That's why, in our approach of documenting a wedding or documenting, it needs to be about the essence of the occasion of what you're documenting, right? So, every moment matters. Every moment matters. That event taught me a lot. So right now, if I shoot a wedding, there's always spare cards. There's always somebody checking. Apart from you checking, there's another eye checking. That one taught me
Two-factor
something.
authentication.
Two-factor authentication. Because how would
Wow.
I have explained after traveling all that while to lose their
Omo.
entire church and personal photograph?
Omo.
That was a lot. Now give
Phew.
them only reception.
I'm
So that
glad.
taught
I'm
me a
glad you
lot.
were able to recover a lot of the
Yeah,
files.
yeah. And that never happened because I learned that lesson and I learned it hard.
Wow. Okay, and then the other side of the question: one shoot or one event that you handled that made you feel like, ah, I actually made the right decision. I'm in the place where I was made to be.
So, okay, some years back, there are quite a bit of them, but some years back, I was supposed to do a pre-wedding in Abuja. And then I called, we're looking for hotels to use. And I went online and I searched and I saw Fraser Suit and I called Fraser Suit and their manager picked. And then she told me the cost of shooting there for an hour, and it was a lot. I communicated that to my client, and they were like, "No, we can't afford this." So I had that number saved, and one of those Easter holidays, I just sent a message to people. And then I saw the advert of their buffet, and then I just kind of liked it. And then I received a message from the manager, and I was like, "Are you intending to book for the buffet session?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not in town, right?" But then a few days after, someone called me and said he's from France Embassy, and then he wants to, what would it take for me to document a high profile event, this and this and this and that. And then I told him, let me get back to him. She just give me proper information on what the details of the event. And he did. And I called a few friends who were in Abuja there, and I asked them, how do I charge? How do I do this? And then they told me, they say, okay, these are expatriates. Charge them in this way. Charge them. This is the time of work and all of that. Specify and all of that. Send an invoice. And I did. And I got the job and I got to do that work. And then I was able to shoot a very high profile event. Yeah, I'm not permitted to. I'm not permitted to release those files. So, and also, I had to do a shoot at the France ambassador's residence also, and it was just.
And all of that was from this Fraser Suite conversation.
Yes.
Wow.
And then even when I went back to do an appreciation for this person, I took some things I bought, some gifts and all of that. And when I took it, she refused to take it. And she was like, I referred you on the basis of your work.
Wow.
And were the clients satisfied? I said, yes, they were. She said, and that's it. That receiving this from you is like bribery. So I just referred you because you did good work. And if the people are happy, that is great. I feel satisfied. That changed my mind. And the caliber of people I got to shoot there also changed my mind. There are quite a number of people who I'm still in communication with from that event almost 3 years back. And, I also, thank God, I dressed properly. I got a very good suit as a then, so I wore it. I was properly dressed. I was well prepared, and I did my work. I didn't go there to do selfie, snap that I'm snapping at the France ambassador.
Yeah.
No, I went there to do my work, and I did my work, and it came out very well. So I think that's one event that made it.
Wow. Interesting. And then something that you said that I find very important, the power of having a company of people that you can always check with.
Yes.
So imagine this was the first time you were having that kind of high profile event.
Yes.
Imagine that you didn't already have contacts in these other places to say, Omo, this is what I've gotten. How do I charge? Yeah. Right. And a lot of people like to run solo. A lot of people just want to be a one-man army, and nobody ever gets forward. I mean, there's a popular saying that if you want to go far, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with people, right? And that's what I've seen or I've heard from your story so far. The importance of having critical people very around necessary. You that help in building what you already have.
Yes. And the truth is that a lot of people are interested to see you grow. Genuinely interested. This mindset of I'll shine them. Or, a lot of people successful people don't have time for that. Successful people want to see you succeed. That's the truth. So the only thing is that a lot of times our mindset is where the key trouble is, That's why most times it's very important to attend conferences, attend workshops, interact with people so your mindset change. And if it changes truly, you realize that it's quite easy to grow.
Yeah.
And we are growing. We're not there. There's a whole lot to do, but I'm grateful for how far we've come and the people that we're in contact and communications with.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Fas. I'm really excited about these things that you've shared. And so much insights to take out of it, really. I think that this is an episode that everybody needs to listen to, whether you're a photographer or you're in the creative industry or just you're someone who's just enthusiastic about starting a business. The principles, the insights that he has shared are things that can be applied to every industry, any industry that you're in. And I hope that this was a really insightful session for you. I hope that it was worth your time. There's so much that we can continue discussing about, but we have to bring this to a close right now. Exciting to have you.
Thank you so much, Tim. And one thing I must say to everyone who has come across this podcast, I've known Tim for a few years now, and I know Tim is someone who has great values, and he has always looked forward to seeing people grow and thrive. Like, subscribe, share this video, and whatever you're doing, just like the name of this podcast is, just start. Just start. You never know how far you can go if you've never started. There's a saying that I would always keep in my heart. It says, "He who never tries never fails." But if you've never tried, you're a failure. So just start.
Just start. I mean, thank you. You've given us our closing words already, right? The aim of this podcast is to get you up of your seats, get you running. Just start. Some of you have been procrastinating. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll start that business tomorrow. I'll take that training next tomorrow. I'll do it when I have money. Just start. Just start. You never know what is in the future waiting for you. And there's so much that is ahead of you. If you would only just start. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you at the next episode. Have a wonderful, wonderful